This is Robert Bernardacci, the MindShare Learning Podcast, Learning and Technology e-magazine. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Kamela Patton, an award-winning educator and recently retired superintendent of Collier County Public Schools in Florida. Dr. Patton is recognized for her visionary leadership, commitment to student success, and innovative approaches to education. With a career spanning several decades, she has been at the forefront of shaping educational landscapes and has inspired countless educators and students alike. Today, we'll be discussing her insights on leadership and mentorship as her experiences at the Paris Summer Olympics were the pursuit of excellence and ideals of Olympicism in the intersection with her philosophy of nurturing student success. And if we're lucky, she might talk to us about her career as a tutor of the Bee Gees when they were on their world tour. Thank you for joining me this afternoon, Dr. Patton, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Wow, what a journey it was for you. And I know that it was quite a while in coming in organizing your trip. Talk to me about the inspiration for it and how long in advance did you plan ahead?
So honestly, it was like a 2 year in the making trip to find out about how can you get into the lottery to get tickets and purchase them, and then to sign up for that, watch for the emails and get into that lottery and sign up for what you wanted to see, and then book an Airbnb and book your tickets, and then figure out how do you get around and what can you take in a stadium. So a lot went into it, but why did I go? Because I'm like an Olympic junkie. I watch it all the winter, all the summer. I tape them. I watch them 3 weeks when it's over, because it's those stories, the stories of the people that are so inspiring, that what they've really overcome, so many of them, to be there at the Olympics, So getting to see there are 32 different sports at the Olympics. So I saw 13. So I actually saw
Wow.
31%. I actually figured out that number because I'm a data person. 31% of all the sports I had the opportunity to see across 5 different cities in France, even though the majority were in Paris, but having played 3 sports in high school, 2 sports in college, my family's very into. So I went to all the sports I played. My sisters played. My dad did ping pong.
Oh, wow.
Just the opportunity to see some fun ones none of us had done, like, water polo and some others, but just fantastic experience. Fantastic.
Amazing. We've got you up on our big screen. You were quite well decorated, including your fingernails, which you had custom done. And I'm sure the number of your colleagues or fellow American fans were envious of your decorations.
I will tell you, those fingernails were well photographed from people from all over. It wasn't even just the US. Oh, can we take a picture of your nails? So it was great. And as a couple of people point out, well, you do have a medal. You have a gold medal. And they said, well, you have 2. So I'm like, well, you're right. I actually do have 2 gold medals. They're not Olympic gold, but they're gold medals. So
right.
Just a lot of fun. Just a lot of fun.
And the Olympic spirit and what it stands for. I had a flashback to my previous career when I was incidentally a consultant on the Olympic torch relay for the 88 games in Calgary. And I was hired to go through from Detroit, Windsor area to Toronto and help establish celebration events around the games and really convey what the value of being part of the Olympic spirit is. About excellence. It's about the arts. It's about community and celebrating. And here you are with the Olympic torch. How cool is that? And how did you feel? As a leader, you embody a lot of those qualities. It's very relatable to what we do in education and helping kids thrive and acquire those essential skills to help you be successful.
Yeah, it's just very, like, who would think, 5 years ago that you're going to get a chance to hold what will be a replica, but still of the torch, the exact size, everything else. So they just did a great job. And then you sit back and you think about like all the years and how the torch was, lit from different places. And even this year, how they had it in a balloon at night. It would stay tethered, but still up it went,
Crazy.
100 meters on the ground in the day. They just did such a great job of thinking out of the box, which was why it was so cool to be there, because I think different Olympics in the future, the host cities might think differently. Even the opening being on the river, a lot of people didn't know until these Olympics, the Olympic rule, law, whatever their term is, that the closing has to be in a stadium, but not the opening. So how neat to have all the athletes on a huge flotilla, and you could just see them waving, having such a good time, music going, and just very unique. And to get to be there right in person on such an iconic Olympics was just
Amazing. So,
amazing.
so you know, the Olympics celebrates the pinnacle of human potential and the spirit of Olympism. How did this experience resonate with your leadership style? You were an award-winning superintendent in Collier County, in Florida, and now you've retired and started consulting practice. What parallels do you see between leading in education and the discipline and the
Yeah.
athletes? I mean, the gymnasts, our Olympic swimmer, Summer
Oh,
McIntosh, actually lives
unbelievable.
up the street from you in Sarasota. That's where she trains.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I think, so in a superintendency in my leadership style, so Toronto is enormous, right? But for the US, still we have to work and here in Collier with 48,000 kids. And so we had 2,300 square miles, and we look, that for us is the size of the state of Delaware, 103 languages and dialects, and
Wow,
3,200 migrant kids. So
holy,
to
holy, quite diverse.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know. That's why I don't generally say Naples, Florida, because people have fixed mindsets that, oh,
Yeah,
it's all rich. So there's an element of rich, but who's in the public schools very different, So it's about creating systems to be able to make sure that all kids have access and opportunities, and those systems of what you see in the Olympics. It doesn't just happen. They have to have systems to put that on. So for us, it's systems not just academically, but you have to have systems for safety, for maintenance, all that you saw at the Olympics, and I know for myself and being a leader, one of those attributes is being very visible. And, with 53
that's a
schools,
really good point. And I know that a friend of yours and a good mutual friend of ours, John Malloy, another award-winning superintendent who was the superintendent in Toronto and came back down to the U.S. where he was from, made a point of visiting schools one day a week.
right. So for me, we have 180 days, 53 schools. So if you're going to visit all 53 every year, you have to have a system to make that happen. And so I did. But then what I found out, Robert, that was funny is here you are making sure you're getting all the schools. And by year two, people are like, you didn't visit our school. I'm like, you got to be kidding. It takes a lot to make that happen. So I got smarter. So I learned at the end of that day, I would send each school their own customized. I enjoyed visiting the school with your principal. These are three
Oh,
things that
wow.
were very specific because I needed to be sure that all of them knew I did visit their schools. So kind of found that out. But so it's being visible in schools, it's being visible at community events, joining key boards around town. And speaking of boards, another part of
Yeah,
leadership for us, our board members, they play a very critical role. So,
right.
as superintendent, you have to invest time into your board members. Those relationships go a long way. And I feel blessed to get to stay here 12 years as a superintendent when they had 5 superintendents in the previous 12 years. But I also think a lot of that was investing in board members and making sure they knew things and taking on challenges. Where can you have opportunities for improvement? For us, it was a graduation rate 72.5. That means more than
Wow.
1 out of 4 kids were
Wow.
not graduating. And yet that wasn't even a question in my interview. What are you going to do about the graduation rate? So that's okay. It just told me that's a number that people are not getting their eye on. But to finish up 12 years later at 92.7, you feel like, okay, we
Oh
have
my
most.
God, that is incredible, and that speaks to, in terms of the conversation today around Olympism and educational value and excellence. You know, uh, that's what the Olympics represent. And when you look at emphasize excellence, respect, and friendship, and then nurturing that student success, contributing to that in creating the right educational environment. How can educators create an atmosphere that both challenges students and supports students in achieving their full potential that we embrace, when we talk about leveraging technology?
Yeah, so I agree. Excellence is a big word, right? And certainly in education, it's an equally big word. But as you're kind of pointing out too, it's not just in academics, right? It's excellence that builds that student. So it's continuous improvement, right? So for an athlete, it might be breaking their personal best record. It might be a Olympic record, a world record, but it's always about continually improving. So is that with our students, right? So that they know what's the goal that they need. What is it that they need to work toward? Is it more of a technical college that they're headed to? Is it a career pathway? Is it a certification? But that's all building to that. And the pleasure we get as educators is really the ability to inspire the students in their learning in that journey of excellence. So it could be academics, it could be arts, could be sports, could be a leadership. But Robert, too, it's also that whole concept of respect, right? And
Right,
that's what the Olympics does. It celebrates diversity in all of, the people from around the world. And like
right.
in education, our kids don't come to us all of one particular type. So it's a very diverse world. And teaching students to respect themselves first, right? Their peers, their communities, and like you even mentioned, friendship, right? Friendship's a big part of it. Look at that Olympic village. Look at these guys. They compete around the world for
And
world
look at these
championships.
people in this picture here that I'm sharing. It's about people and friendship and
Absolutely.
community. Talk to me about that, the
Absolutely.
importance of building that culture of community and collaboration. We have our community. That's how we met. We
Yeah,
met through our
exactly.
learning community, professional learning community. And the Olympics were embodied that spirit on a global scale. How do you nurture that today with the complexities of post COVID and the state of well-being at a crisis? I mean, the book I'm writing, The Art of Networking in the Age of AI, is really about harnessing the human potential to help people thrive.
Yeah, so it's important, right, of how to do that. So I think as a superintendent, it's really important that you have very clear goals, clear visionary goals. What is it you want? Have high expectations for everyone, and where you see that there's a gap. So let's go back to that graduation rate, kind of like the athletes. So we would look and see which group of our kids were falling behind. So we looked at our special needs kids at 49% graduating. You have to be kidding. No, 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 no.
Mm,
African American students are. So each of those groups, but that's like what an athlete does. They know like they need to tweak something here, so they go after that. So again, those comparables are right there. And it's high expectations, but then data driven decisions. So how do you identify that? No, where's that gap? But then it's not just where's the gap, right, Robert? It's about monitoring it. What are you doing? So in 5 months, where are we at? In 6 months, where are we at? Those athletes do the same thing. Where are they at training for their continuous improvement?
right. Well
But
said.
backing up to what you mentioned, really about when we look at the whole technology world, where those gaps are for an individual student, right, is identifying their gaps and how do we close those. But it's personalized learning. And what we're very fortunate is what you're
Right.
talking about. AI tools are now helping us at a much greater process. Same with athletes. A new tennis rack isn't invented or something else comes right along. And then I think, Robert, the last part of that whole about cultivating student success is really professional development for our educators, because things change. So if you don't build in that time, those finances, and get in that time to help lift our most important folks, our teachers, letting parents, letting our community partners know how can they help. So it's really a whole package so that child finishes as a well-rounded, not solely on academics.
Well, well said. And when it comes to, leadership in times of change, this is your wheelhouse. I mean, you came into a situation and you were like the turnaround superintendent. So, with all the significant changes, especially in recent years post-COVID, how do you think leaders can effectively navigate these changes while maintaining a focus on student outcomes and the well-being aspects and excellence?
Right. And
It's
so in
complicated.
Florida, we really had the opportunity. I used to go around and travel with the slide that showed every year, and every year all the new state mandates, not suggestions, mandates. So how do you make all that happen yet stay focused? So, just to mention a couple, I think it's so important that educators as a whole have a growth mindset. This isn't how I see education. I have to be willing to have that growth mindset. Like we mentioned, that professional development and personalizing education. We do it with special needs students. They get specific goals, this, that. So getting that, using these tools that are out there, that sense of belonging that you mentioned, Robert, look what happened when we look at our athletes. You look at like a Michael Phelps, that he took his first $1 million sponsorship he
Yeah.
got and invested it right into mental health services.
Wow.
Look at Simone Biles, those last 4 years, what she's gone through,
Wow.
and then you watch how did the pandemic hit our kids. And if you look at the silver linings of all those kind of things and role models like Simone, like Michael Phelps, and you sit and say, it's okay to not be okay. So like we actually put posters up that said that, and the kids that actually were like, I'm not the only one struggling. And it wasn't
Right.
just kids, it's
No.
your
Well,
staff.
yeah.
So a lot of people, so again, I mentioned that whole concept of using data is so important, but also reaching out to your community resources, right? There are a lot of people but that takes time. That takes the superintendent's time. You can't always just send someone from your cabinet, so that's important. But I think that balancing, like you kind of implied a minute ago, so it's keeping that balance of technology
Right.
that can make personalized, but then still some of that traditional education. And then the last thing I'd comment is that's why it's so great to get to be a superintendent. You can innovate. Innovation is just such a core of where education's at, and
Right.
that's why it's a
It's
great job.
everything. It's baked into. It should be baked into the system. And from the
Absolutely.
point when student educators go into faculties of education, that should be a course in itself on
Absolutely.
innovation in education.
And
Because,
yet it's not. And
right?
yet it's not.
Maybe you and I could create that course.
That
That
sounds
would
like
be
a plan.
that would be so cool.
That
Like
would be a lot of
the
fun.
innovators mindset course.
There
You
you
know,
go. So you already have a title for it.
there you go. But before we wrap up, let's reflect on legacy and future goals. As you reflect on your impactful career, I know that you, when we first met, had something really unique and special about your experience and what led you to where you are today. And I really attribute when you shared with me, because it was my era, that you were the tutor to the Bee Gees kids. And that was that was the pinnacle for me in high school. It was the band. And you had the honor of being part of that. And when I look at the Bee Gees and the worldwide success they achieved, like Olympic champions, they were at the top of their game. And
Absolutely.
that, I believe, raised your game in everything you did and prepared you for a journey in education.
Yeah, so it was a very unique opportunity and just a phenomenal, phenomenal experience, and to be a personal assistant to such a tremendous um, group of people. And I remember asking them one time, Barry, why is it people like music? And his answer was so true. He said people like music because it dates their lives. It's your high school prom song. It's your daughter's dance at her wedding with her. It's all of those things. So to have gotten to see all that firsthand and then go on a world tour like the Olympics and that operational side, like nobody even notices. How did the javelin athlete get the javelin back? How did the hammer throw, which by the way, Canada won the
Mhm.
gold medal, how does that get back?
Yes.
It's three-quarters of the way down the field. You don't even know. There's a little remote control car they put in it and it zips to the other end. When you see these swimmers come out, everybody yells, whoa, right? They're covered up in jackets, swimsuits. Where did all those go in their race? Because here at the camera, you see it all there. So all of that gets done. It's similar to the Bee Gees World Tour, like fascinating to me. They're singing on the stage. They finish, the band's still playing. We're out on cars. Everything gets picked up, lighting crew, it's on to the next. So I think that really helped me very early on to just say, how do you do all those things and do them, as I say, flawlessly so people stay focused? If it was the Bee Gees concerts, if it's the Olympics, we're focused on the athletes, not how do all those things happen in the school systems. How do the kids get transported? What about the food services? We're really focused on the classroom. So when they take care of all those things
Right.
so when you talk about legacies, I'm hoping, Robert, that my legacy is that we've taught this community here 12 years later. You expect our school district to be an A, nothing short of an A. You
Right.
expect that graduation rate to be there. Use data systems, continue those systems, and honestly, getting now the opportunity in chapter 2 to help create mentorship opportunities, executive coaching for new superintendents. And to be honest, it was the greatest job that anybody gets to have because you and your team get to impact the future.
Well, kudos to you for a remarkable career and impact on the lives of students and educators and parents and community. And it was so fitting for you to put a bow around that and wrap a gift wrap of Olympic moments. And I was grateful for living vicariously through the games through you with all the wonderful photos you share. I'm grateful for our friendship and look forward to collaborating with you on this course because I think it would be
Exactly.
an award-winning one. And any final thoughts to share, Dr. Pat?
Just to say that, the positions in education, sure, they get tougher, but the reality is to remember you are shaping the future, you're touching the future. And there are lots of people there to help support you, mentors that are there for you. So use folks that are there for you, your community, leverage all your resources. And just thank you to everyone in the education space and all of those that help support the education space.
Dr. Patton, thank you for taking the time to share your incredible journey and insights with us, your perspective on leadership and mentorship, and the powerful connection between education and the ideals of Olympism is really, truly inspiring. We wish you all the best in your future
Thank
endeavors.
you.
I wish a book upon you. We talked about this. And when I
Yes.
wish a book upon someone, it happens. So I'm sure our listeners will be leaving with valuable lessons and watching for your book one day. My name is Robert Bernalacci of the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare.learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.